Let's talk about slasher movies.
Please.
We're going to be here for 3 hours talking about the history of Halloween, but first we have to talk about the history of slashers and horrors and all of that. But like, what is a slasher movie in your words?
Okay, I don't know the definition. We'll just assume it means that there's going to be knife play. This is a movie not about guns. It's just so much more gory.
That's so
hand to
important.
hand, so much more personal, and it means you have to run and there has to be a chase, and that there's going to be nudity. Most likely, there's going to be teens getting up to things they shouldn't be. There shouldn't be, and there's going to be scream queens.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Usually it is not. There can be a supernatural like origin story of the villain, like Chucky is brought to life by voodoo curses or whatever. But after that, it has to kind of follow sort of, natural law.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, which is like why it's scary, because like a person with a knife can exist. They can come into your house if they wanted to. There'd be nothing you could do to stop them. And that's way scarier than any,
And in fact, they can get that knife or sharp object from your own house and from your own hand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there is a movie where a person has a sharp object they grab in a hurry to defend themselves that doesn't get flipped around on them.
So the slasher, where did the slasher come from?
I already know this. Yay! But that's funny. They had to get it down. This is a little too technologically advanced with that chainsaw, Leatherface.
What do you mean? So
he was very cutting edge. No, he does have a knife and a hammer at different points, but his weapon of choice is the chainsaw. And I believe Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the first one to kind of lay out this formula.
It's so with all things, it's complicated and this could be its own 8-hour podcast. And people have different ideas about whether, Texas Chainsaw counts as a slasher, whether Black Christmas counts as a slasher, whether Halloween is the real first slasher, is Psycho a slasher?
Don't you feel that teens, where they should not be, unsupervised youth, is also it seems like mandatory,
a pretty key thing,
or negligent adults. And when other movies you're listing, I picture adults,
but it just has to be younger. Like in the Friday the 13th movies, they're usually in their early 20s, if not teenagers, but they're camp counselors. They're adults, but they're young adults.
Oh yeah, but there's also they are taking care of other people's children. When it turns into parents, it turns into something different for me. A parent taking care of a child. Then you've got a thriller.
Yeah, it does feel different.
Yeah, there's something. It's because all of these movies are just based on people's normal fears, super mundane fear. Is my kid weird? Will my kid make friends? Am I doing a good job as a parent? Is it bad that I want to have my own life? Is it wrong of me to ask the kid down the street to watch my kid? What happens when I'm not around? That's it. These are parents' worst nightmares, these movies.
Oh, okay. So it's not that you need to remove that baggage in order to have a slasher, because if you add that all in, it just sort of becomes a different kind of thing.
I'm saying that Leatherface, that Freddy, that Jason and Michael, those are all a parent writing a movie about their worst nightmare for their kid. It's what happens when I'm not around. I can remove guns from the house. I know not to have a gun, but we have a butcher block. We tell our children not to run with scissors. We always are scared if they're chasing each other with a stick. But when we're not around, what do they get up to? And am I a bad parent because I'm not watching them every second of every day? And in fact, I don't want to.
And Nightmare on Elm Street kind of heightens that. You want your kids to go to sleep.
Yes.
And this is like, no. That's where they're in the most danger of all, and you can't do anything about it.
Exactly.
Psycho is, it's the book of Genesis in a way, because everything that comes after it has to be responding to it, incorporating it in some way. We covered Psycho back in 2018. It's a delightful movie, even if you don't like old movies. You will like Psycho. It's a lot of fun, but it is not a slasher like Halloween, which is also a super old movie, but feels like it's from a totally different era.
There's a more of an artistry to Psycho. Yeah, it feels a little more highbrow, I would think.
I mean, yes. It starts with, nice adults in a high-rise building discussing business and, and
And
money and marriage and
only
stuff.
an adult can rent a hotel room, as we found out many times. No, that never happened.
Oh.
But there were multiple times before I was 25 where I kept forgetting you have to be 25 to get a room somewhere. In most places.
Where? No, that's not true.
Most places.
I stayed at a billion hotels.
Look it up. There was probably in your mom's name.
No, it was never in my
little
mom's
mama's
name.
boy bitch.
No, this is you and I stayed in hotel rooms before I was 25.
And we put on a mustache. I got on your shoulders. We wore a coat. Asked where the library was.
I know you have your I know things thing, but this is not one of those things. You're getting it mixed up with cars.
Rental cars.
Yes.
What are you gonna do? Go stay in a hotel without a car?
So Psycho is 1960. The female lead of Psycho is of course Janet Leigh, mother of Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, the one with the short hair?
That's her, the one who gets killed in the shower.
Look at her.
And her boyfriend in that movie is named Sam Loomis, who's also in Halloween. Well, there's lots of other different kinds of horror movies, but the next jump is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. We already talked about it, but the same year, there's another movie called Black Christmas.
I haven't seen that one.
I only just recently saw it.
It's in color?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It's from 1974.
So was the other one. This just looks like a brighter color.
And this movie fucking rules. I can't believe I never saw it. I'm going to watch it every year from now on.
Oh, we can do this during Christmas then.
We can, yes.
Oh, how nice.
But there is something that I think will keep you from liking it. There's two things.
Baby death.
I wrote, the other two things you don't like. Snow.
I
am
warming to it, ironically.
And the main character's voice.
Oh, a vocal?
I got a super cut of her saying the word hello because she says hello constantly in this movie because she's always answering the phone.
Duh.
Because the killer's calling her and making obscene phone calls to her. This is Olivia Hussey. She's the actress who played Juliet
Hussey?
In Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
She's an English actress. She's doing maybe the worst American accent I've ever heard. In fact, the defense could be, she's not trying to do an accent. Her character's just canonically English. But,
Give it to me.
So this is her just constantly saying hello.
Hello? Hello?
What?
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Oh, got it.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, yeah, she's clearly English. I mean, that's not even her attempting to be American.
Yes, but she has a lot of line readings are just sort of bland American accent. But then, hello, hello, dearie. But this movie is great. It's set on a holiday theme, and the killer stalks a group of young women. In this case, they're sorority girls.
Another parent's biggest fear is when their kids go off to either to summer camp or to college. It's when they are away from them for long periods of time.
Yeah. And that's very much like a point of the movie because there is a parent character who's like, my daughter's missing. Okay, but it has all these like superficial similarities, but if you watch it, it's nothing like Halloween. And yet Halloween comes and then every slasher movie after it resembles it in some kind of way. Especially the Friday the 13th movies.
So does Black Christmas just do a lot more with like eerie silence and like someone lurking, but there's not a lot of like gory action? You said it's a stalking movie is much different from like one that ends in murder.
Well, he stalks and murders. I would call Halloween a stalking movie too. It's just
waiting.
Halloween just has the beats in it that now you've seen in so many other movies that Black Christmas just doesn't have. It just seems like a more normal drama.
Halloween is not a stalking movie. It is not a stalk if you only do it during one day. There needs to be a pattern of behavior. He was just locating Jamie, making sure he wanted to definitely kill her.
All right.
He was planning.
I defer to you on this.
Thank you. I think that I don't think you could go to a cop and say this one guy showed up in 4 different places that I was today, and that's it. Don't worry, he's dead now.
Black Christmas has a very funny thing where they keep going to the cops, and the cops are like, what are you talking about? You're getting obscene phone calls, and one of your sorority sisters has been missing for 48 hours.
What are you talking? You dress like that? You learn out of books? You're asking for it.
It's just the Chief Wiggum, like, well, I'll just type that up on my invisible typewriter. All right, Halloween, yeah, prototypical slasher, and it was a fucking enormous hit. Made $70 million in 1978, a budget of less than $500,000.
Dang.
the most profitable independent movie of all time.
Still?
As of that point. If you incorporate all the sequels, I mean, it has to be, but just as a standalone movie.
Living his best. Look at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, guy's having fun.
John Carpenter has fun. John Carpenter, he spends his days getting stoned and playing video games. And he says this in every interview he's given. Like, what's a typical day for John Carpenter? He's like, I wake up late, I get the mail, I play video games, I get high. He hasn't directed a movie in, I think, 13 years, but he did the music for the most recent Halloween movies, made a ton of money just as a producer of those movies, and is, as Lacey said, living his best life. Okay, so John Carpenter directed Halloween, was born in 1948. He was 30 years old when he made Halloween. He grew up in Bowling Green, Kentucky. His father was a music professor at Western Kentucky University, and they lived in a log cabin on campus at Western Kentucky. His twin loves in life, music and movies, and he found a way to do both. One of the best things about John Carpenter, if you read any interviews with him, he's the most unpretentious, most dismissive of his own work. He's like, anybody who takes me seriously is dumb. I don't know what I'm doing.
But you're a carpenter.
He has this quote from, he was interviewed by Variety this year. He said, quote, there's always some interpretation that I have no idea what they're talking about, but I keep my mouth shut. If people put interpretations on my movies, it makes me seem smarter than I really am, which is what I want. End quote. Okay. John Carpenter's first feature film was Dark Star in 1974. It was a very low budget movie that he collaborated on with Dan O'Bannon, who went on to be a major figure in the Alien franchise. And I knew that before I'd ever seen Dark Star. So when I saw Dark Star, I was just expecting sort of a low budget version of Alien made by John Carpenter, but it's really a comedy.
Ew.
And like the alien is played by a beach ball. And so it's very silly. And like, I didn't know what to make of it. I want to watch it again. I liked it, but I was like, I just should have been calibrated differently going into it.
Yeah, you were not primed correct.
But it was kind of a hit in like the druggy 70s. And I mean, like a, super niche,
like Cheech and Chong.
Sleeper hit.
Cheech and Chong was like widely loved, right?
Yeah. And then he makes Assault on Precinct 13. And this is not a major hit movie, but it gets a lot of attention, gets a lot of praise. And I think it's a big hit in Europe, but not in America.
Hello. That's my Europe accent. Look at those guys. We got a picture here of Jamie Lee hugging a carpenter. She
loves John Carpenter. She still talks highly about him today. Uh-huh. All right. So the origin of how Halloween started is this guy named Irwin Yablans.
It sounds like you gave up on the last half of his. Yablans.
Yeah. He was a producer for Compass International Pictures, which distributed Assault on Precinct 13. He targeted John Carpenter, decided, I want to work with him again. And I have an idea for a movie. It's a very like one sentence pitch. It's just babysitter murders. So what if some babysitters are murdered? That do anything for you? So John Carpenter gets to work on it. Well, first he says, okay, I will do it, but I have some pretty big demands. He wanted to write the movie and score the movie in addition to direct it. He wanted complete creative control. He wanted above the title billing. That's why the movie's called John Carpenter's Halloween. And he wanted his girlfriend, Debra Hill, to be the co-writer and the producer, even though she'd never produced a movie before. So they accepted all of these, and his salary was only $10,000. Mm-hmm. Not being an executive producer, he did not make anywhere near the amount of money he should on how profitable the movie has been. He's made money from the residuals on the music, on creating the characters. Like he still gets a check every time a new Halloween movie gets made. But
what about merchandise?
No, I don't think he gets any of that.
God, it's like it's right up there with
Spider-Man.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah,
like there's a Nightmare Before Christmas section of every fucking store.
Yeah. He brings over to Halloween, he brings Debra Hill, who worked with him on that, and Tommy Lee Wallace, who also worked on that. He has a crew that he usually works with from movie to movie. The budget is $300 million, $300,000. That would be about $1.5 million today. And that was the budget. Debra Hill, I mentioned her. She was Carpenter's girlfriend, and she becomes a major figure in his career and outside of his career. She was the co-writer of Halloween. She's often like, when people talk about the making of the movie, they're like, you can look at this movie and see Dr. Loomis as John Carpenter and Laurie Strode as Debra Hill. And she put a lot of herself into Laurie, her experience as a babysitter and as a, sort of overlooked but resourceful young woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Made fun of for exactly what people end up needing her for.
Yeah. She went on to be a producer. She worked on Adventures in Babysitting, Clue, and The Fisher King, in addition to lots of Carpenter movies, even after they broke up.
That's nice.
And she died in 2005. She was only 55 years old. Also big champion of other women in the business. She was one of the only female producers at the time. And has a lot of interesting stuff to say about how she had to carry herself and how it was important to her to elevate other women that she worked with. Okay, so Donald Pleasance is the man that the most well-known member of the cast.
At the time of the record of the time of the shooting. Okay.
He had basically been a character actor, a working veteran actor for a long time in movies, in big movies and small movies, in TV. Probably best known at the time for The Great Escape and for being the first person to ever play Ernst Stavro Blofeld, James Bond's archenemy, in You Only Live Twice.
Are those nipples?
You've
got a movie poster for You Only Live Twice, and am I seeing nipples?
No, that's a bathing costume of some sort.
They're all wearing flesh-colored bathing costumes that makes it look like that's where their tan isn't, because they took off their bikini tops and bottoms, and there's the nipples.
They're just trying to get you to look.
And it's working.
John Carpenter wanted Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing for the role of Loomis. Both of these guys are like legendary horror movie actors, and they both turned it down, which is good because they would have... Donald Pleasance is great, but it just would have made this seem like a different kind of movie. And they're much more theatrical.
Right.
So they hire Donald Pleasance. He's paid $20,000. That's the most of anybody in the movie. He films his scenes in 5 days. And he said he didn't understand the character or the decisions he made. But I love this detail from the book Taking Shape, which is about the making of the Halloween series. And how like attached Carpenter was to his ideas. Like if somebody had something else, he's like, yeah, we can do that. He had a scene where Loomis calls his wife. It says like, oh yeah, I'm okay. I'll be home in a few days. And the actor, Donald Pleasance, said, this character doesn't have a wife. He would never have a wife.
Right.
And Carpenter was like, oh, you're right. So they took it out.
Right. He's not lovable.
He's
his work.
It's not just that he's not lovable. It's like, no, this character just does not, this character doesn't have things. He exists in life to be like, no, Michael Myers is evil.
Right. Well, and look at the way he treated that perfectly respectable nurse in the opening scene, or not the opening, the opening after the credits.
He's a dick. Yeah.
He's a dismissive man.
For the crucial role of Laurie, they go with Jamie Lee Curtis. She was 19 years old at the time of filming. And she's a damn Nepo baby.
Son of a bitch.
Janet Leigh is her mother, and then Tony Curtis is her father. So
where'd she get that chin? I guess Tony.
From those, probably.
Neither of them have the bone structure she does. Are we sure? It's Tony. It's fine. Continue.
Debra Hill openly said that they knew it would be good publicity if they hired Janet Leigh's daughter. Not that like Jamie Lee, they didn't think she was a good actress, but on top of everything else, we'll get some attention because we have
the horror community. Was she also in The Birds? Those eyes make me think The Birds.
She was not in The Birds, but she's like a prototypical Hitchcock blonde. Yeah. That's just Alfred Hitchcock had a type.
Just those eyes, they're so wide.
So this movie made Jamie Lee Curtis, a kind of star, and she starred in other horror movies like Terror Train and Prom Night, and this is where she gets the Scream Queen moniker before she goes into like respectable movies.
Which it's impressive that she was able to make the jump.
Yeah, it doesn't happen
back then. Yeah,
but what I like about her is she's never like been embarrassed. She loves Halloween and she loves John Carpenter, and she has her whole career, gone to cons and stuff.
Aww.
And then, this year she won an Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I just want to play a clip from her speech because I thought it was nice that she did this.
To all of the people who have supported the genre movies that I have made for all these years, the thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. We just won an Oscar together.
Aww, I get goosebumps.
Yeah, because everything she'd said up until then was just like people I know and people who help me in my career. But then, to the fans.
Yeah. It's a strong community. I think I definitely, well, I don't know that I estimated it at all, but if I had, it would have been an underestimate.
All right. Can I now,
Jamie it up in here?
No, well, kind of, just
Get Jamie with
in
it?
ridiculous detail, mansplain the Halloween franchise to you.
Please do.
Okay.
What's with his face? All right, continue. What is that?
Which one?
Is it a mask or isn't it? It's just his head?
This one?
He's got a head mask?
Yeah.
Is that H2O? I remember her hair in
That's
H2O.
Halloween H2O, yes.
Yeah. I just call it H2O because I'm part of the film talk community. Just kidding.
We were watching Halloween last night and you said, should we watch Halloween 2? Because
Why are you pausing?
I don't know. You haven't talked in a while.
Yes, I just spoke.
Yeah, but
You don't hear me.
Yeah. Halloween 2 gets made 3 years after Halloween 1. It is a direct sequel. Carpenter comes back under duress. He does not direct the movie, but he writes and produces and does the music. And under duress because the company that produced the movie also produced his movie The Fog, which didn't do well financially. So they're like, you got to come and make a Halloween sequel.
Well, and he was worried it wouldn't be good, or
He
he
didn't
just
want to-
is feeling shitty about the fog.
He didn't want to do Halloween again. He didn't want to keep going with this. And he also didn't intend to be a horror director.
Huh.
He didn't want that to be his thing. And he branched out and he did all kinds of other things, but they were going ahead with a Halloween sequel with or without him. So he wrote the script and he made the, kind of shitty decision that Laurie and Michael are actually brother and sister. So that's where this strand, starts. And he said, I did that because I didn't know what else to do. I was just out of ideas. It was just, we need something to happen. So I don't know, brother and sister. Halloween 2 is, it's fun. And a lot of it, you can convince yourself you're watching the first one because so many of the elements are the same. But a lot of the magic is gone. It's still pretty fun. And it's a lot more violent. The next year.
There's a new crop of friends? Babysitters to Kill? Or what's the setting?
So it's the same night. And Laurie goes to the hospital.
Is that why it's called a direct sequel? Meaning it's just I don't understand.
Oh, I just meant to specify to distinguish that from other movies where it's like Halloween 7 is a direct sequel to Halloween 2, skipping over Halloween's 3 through 6.
But it's only 1 and 2, so how
No,
could
I
it
know.
not
I shouldn't have put that.
Okay, but it's the same night, meaning Jamie doesn't age. You're supposed to imagine she didn't.
You're supposed to imagine she didn't, and she has a wig on. She's supposed to be the same age, but she looks older, and now she has short hair, but has a big wig on.
So it's a redo?
No. This is what happens after the events of Halloween 1. She goes to the hospital, and she's out of commission for a lot of the movie. She's just in a hospital bed. And then we meet like characters who were supposed to be her other friends who we'd never heard of before.
Okay.
Oh, and the boy that she has a crush on.
Yeah, does she ever go to that dance?
No, but he's in the movie and he gets killed.
Oh, good.
Ben Tramer. Halloween 3 is John Carpenter had this idea. What we should do is make this an anthology series. We don't need Michael Myers. We don't need Laurie Strode. We'll just tell other stories about Halloween.
Okay.
So he writes Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which involves haunted masks. And involves like ancient Irish curses and Stonehenge in some weird way, but also it's kind of a cyber thriller. There's amazing 1982 computer screens and a very synthy score. And this movie's great, but everyone hated it at the time.
If they thought of it as something not at all related to the Halloween movies, do you think it'd be different?
I think people would have liked it better. It still is kind of like maybe a little underwhelming if it's not called Halloween, because it's like, this just seems like an episode of The Twilight Zone. But that's what's charming about it, is how kind of low stakes it is. But yeah, nobody liked it. And in Halloween 3, the movie Halloween is playing on a TV. So it's like, this movie takes place in a world where Halloween is a movie. That was not a well-received movie. It didn't make any money. So now it's 6 years later and they bring Michael Myers back. Carpenter is just gone. There's no more John Carpenter. He's not involved in the series anymore. He's not doing the score or the writing. But they bring Donald Pleasance back as Loomis. He's in the next 3 movies. And now Our heroine is a girl named Jamie, and she's the daughter of Laurie Strode, who is dead. So little Jamie is the hero of the next two movies. And then they increase the sort of ancient Irish curse. Michael Myers is powered by the spirits of Halloween.
What?
And that's the same for the next movie, 1989. These movies are both very
is that
successful.
actress?
Her name is Danielle Harris. She's an actress to this day.
Yeah, she looks familiar.
Then there's 6 years go by. 1995, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. This is Donald Pleasance dies during production of this. This is his last appearance. Paul Rudd plays a grown-up Tommy Doyle. This movie's not very good. It doesn't make any money. So 1998, they start over again and they bring Jamie Lee Curtis back and they say, it's been 20 years. Let's make a sequel to Halloween 2. We'll erase the past 4 movies. So now you never had a daughter. You're still alive. And Josh Hartnett is your son. And Michael Myers is still your brother. And now it's 20 years later and he comes to find you. And this is a fun movie. I like this movie. And it's a modest hit. But 4 more years go by and Jamie Lee Curtis has one scene in Halloween Resurrection, even though she's top billed and on the poster and everything. And then she dies very early in the movie. And this movie is really bad. And that's just basically the end of the original series.
Okay.
Okay. Now, enter the Hellbilly, Rob Zombie,
Oh, God.
who just remakes the original Halloween. But this time gives so much backstory and context and information about Michael Myers and his childhood. And he and Laurie are sister and brother.
Do I want to know? Would I enjoy this childhood context bullshit? Or would it upset me? Rob Zombie almost always upsets me.
No, it would upset you. Oh, yeah. Okay. In this case, he has like an abusive stepfather, and that's why he turns evil.
He's not evil. He's just on the spectrum. I hate this.
Well, not in Rob Zombie's version.
Well, Rob Zombie doesn't understand autism. Again, if most of these movies are born with my theory, if most of these movies are born from parents' fears, what more than my kid's different? Like, what's my kid going to be like as an adult? If I can't get my kid to respond to my requests and my demands right now, the larger he gets, the more dangerous he becomes, and he doesn't mean to be. And the world will misunderstand him, and the world will think he's evil.
Yeah, and in his case, in Michael's case, he got the worst care he could possibly get from a doctor who's like, I spent 7 years with him and then decided he was pure evil. What could he have done?
He didn't decide after 7 years. He decided right away.
No, he said, I spent 8 years trying to rehabilitate him and then another 7 trying to keep him locked away. But like, so what did he see? He probably this kid's not talking.
He spent 8 years doing this. Michael.
I know.
Michael.
Yeah.
That kid's evil.
Yeah, I know.
It's torture. And fluorescent lighting and loud noises and people who are suffering from delusions and other mental illness. I can't think of a worse place for someone on the spectrum.
Now, just to be clear, you're not saying you think John Carpenter, when he wrote the movie, was thinking that. This is just what you see when you watch it now.
I don't know. I assume John Carpenter would have said so, but I think it could even be unintentional. I think anyone who cares about kids knows that sometimes, even if they don't know what's going on, that there are kids who process things differently and appear weird, but are sweethearts.
Mm-hmm. And they're
misunderstood.
You said this is ruining horror for you.
It is. Yeah, because I see it. Well, you said that I went to Sam's and got a big bag of autism. And so I just keep giving it out every place I see it. But I do see it everywhere.
That was not for podcast.
I think it's, I do feel like that. I feel like the autism fairy. I just feel, I truly.
We have an autistic child.
Yes. And
so we are more sensitive. This doesn't give us like special permission to talk for autistic people.
Of course not. I do see it everywhere. And it makes me want to be nicer to people. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that I don't get put off by people. And I still catch myself doing it and thinking, well, that was rude the way that they did that. And then I immediately go, you have no idea what kind of day that person's having or what else is on their mind. Mm-hmm. And what else and anything to do or anything about the way that their actual mind works. I'm lucky to be a person who's very perceptive of facial cues and body cues, and even to just an average person, I have heightened senses. So I don't know. I just know I could never know, and so I just don't assume anymore.
You can. I've kind of just always accepted that you can pathologically understand anything that we think is weird or different.
Right. If you bothered to look into anything about that person, you could get to the.
And it doesn't
to the
need to
why.
be autism. It can be any number of things. And so it does kind of, if you want to tell a story about a scary person, but then you think a little bit, why is that person scary? You will start to feel a little cruel.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that it's not scary or that I cannot, because I don't think about these things when I'm watching these movies. But it happens to me in other movies, like the Batman that came out last year. The movie called The Batman has the Riddler in it, and Paul Dano is playing him. And he got so much praise for this performance. And in the theater, I was enjoying this movie, and then he steps on screen and starts talking, and I get furious at the movie because he's portraying the Riddler clearly as an autistic person.
Oh my God.
And autistic people coded as villains is like a very old trope. And I thought, like, in 2022, you're going to be doing, and not like it's a subtle thing. I mean, he's doing like noises and stuff that like are stereotypically autism coded. And so I just and I watched the movie again and didn't change my feelings about him. Like, no, you're trying to say what is scarier than an autistic person being the Riddler. Not that autistic people can't be villains, but it's clear, like, hey, you know how I can be like Heath Ledger levels of fucked up is if I play this guy like he's autistic. And I just like, I like Paul Dano as an actor. Now I like him less for making these decisions. And the director, Matt Reeves, I like him less for allowing this
and
in
whoever
this movie.
fucking idiots are praising that. But people who don't have a person with autism in their life, someone who they care for and take care of.
Or someone who isn't autistic themselves.
Absolutely. There's just... I don't fault people for not knowing what they don't know.
Mm-hmm. So, and there's tons of stuff we miss.
Sure. Yeah. No. So I'm not saying, oh, they're idiots for liking that. They just don't have someone in their life or aren't themselves struggling with neurological misfires or just different fires. I don't know. I'm not sure how to put that.
So Halloween 2018.
Look, the progression of the freaking cover art of these, movie posters. This man gets sadder and sadder. He goes from perfectly easy. I know it's not always him, but the pumpkin is like the most innocent. And then it goes to sinister pumpkin. And then it goes to straight up fucking devil face. And then it just goes to like more and more of a mask that becomes more decrepit and sad and full of like emotion. Look at, that's not a mask anymore. It's got wrinkles. His mask got wrinkles. Go on.
I'd say it's effective.
Very.
He's growing. He's aging.
Yeah.
2018, they do what they did in 1998, which is let's go back to the beginning, but this time they went one movie further. So now they erase everything except for the first movie.
I think that's the right move.
It is the right move, but I do I like the sequels, but they still exist. It doesn't matter. But this is just, the Halloween series has some of the weirdest continuity, so many different tendrils. 2018, yeah, Laurie is back to not being related to Michael Myers, which is the right decision. The point of Halloween is this is a force. It is almost random. If you make it more particular, he's after you because you're his sister. That does make it less scary because you, the viewer, are like, well, I'm not his sister, so I'm safe.
I just love it. I love thinking of it as something that he wants to have her, not necessarily kill her, but like he wants to be around her and doesn't know how to keep her there. He just admires her for her care of the boy that reminds him of himself. I like to think of it like that.
That's nice. That's
okay.
I agree with you. That's what I think too now. Then they had Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, which weren't good. And now the series.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm responding to the movie posters. Whew.
Halloween Ends. She finally kills him, and they put him in a trash compactor to make sure he's dead for real.
That's how you do that.
Okay. So that's it for our history of the Halloween series. Now let's get into talking about Halloween 1978.